Good morning, everybody from Oahu.
From the North Shore. Thank you for joining us for breakfast. Okay, let me ask you a question. So, a lot of people wrote in questions to the little announcement we made that we're going to do this Q&A. So, our wonderful editors back here, Lexi and Shane, printed them up for us so that we could have some things to start with. And then as you guys write in more questions, they'll be shouting some out to us because we can't see the screen right now. So I'm gonna ask Justin.
Buddy got the most questions.
Okay, well, let's see. Oh, okay. One Buddy question is Buddy getting teeth? And the answer to that is yes. He got his two bottom front teeth.
And you'll find that out really fast if you put your finger in his mouth, or he tries to grab your finger, because he'll bite the crap out of you and it really hurts. I never expected a little baby's bite to hurt that bad.
This is not our dog. We promise it's not. This is a dog that lives half a mile down the road. His name is Tazzy, but I'm convinced that he's in love with me and Buddy.
This dog.
And that's not our dog either. That's Kaya.
They're both beautiful dogs.
But they're both great dogs. But Tazzy runs away from home pretty much on a daily basis and comes here, and we'll go drop him off, but he'll come right back, and sometimes he brings his brother, and then it just gets way too chaotic.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
But he
do
said back to
questions.
the questions. Leslie Jurin and Chloe Coltrani asked, any advice for people who want to start freediving and spearfishing? An example, holding longer breaths and formal training.
So I guess my main advice for people who want to get started with freediving and spearfishing would be, first, before you even make any goals for yourself in terms of that, I would just say try and get comfortable in the ocean. Just try to go out and experience the ocean in a way where you can fully relax in it. If it's just floating in the water, start with that. And then when it comes to swimming, make sure that you're not spending too much time or effort being nervous. Really try and work on relaxation, and eventually, as you start to take drops down, again, it's all just tuning into relaxing. Of course, you have to learn about equalizing your ears. For most people, it's just pinching and blowing. But more than anything, I would say it really is, baby steps of comfort. Justin is actually from Minnesota, and when he came to Hawaii and we decided to start this relationship, I taught him to free dive from scratch because he didn't grow up with the ocean at all. And I'm very Mr. Miyagi about it. For those of you who are too young to know who Mr. Miyagi is, he is a character in what movie, Justin?
The Karate Kid.
Karate Kid, or Karate Kid. And in
Excellent movie.
It's such a good movie. When I'm talking about the original, I think Justin, he's younger than me, so you watched
I watched the OG.
Oh, really?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, Daniel's
Come
son.
on,
I don't know. No, I think you might have watched like a remake that you think is the original.
Mm-hmm.
But Daniel's son, the student, really wants to learn, as they say, karate, but it's really karate. And he finds his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, and Mr. Miyagi makes him wax the car and paint his fence, and Daniel's like, wait, when are you gonna teach me karate? And Mr. Miyagi's like, I am teaching you. And it was all this wax on, wax off movements, and that's what I did to Justin here. Is he really wanted to learn spearfishing and freediving, and I just made him swim in the ocean. And then after a while, I took him to marine sanctuaries, and I would, teach him how to dive down, but obviously with no spear, and we would just observe the fish. We would learn fish identification, and I would send him down and just be like, okay, tell me what fish you saw, if they're legal size, all that kind of stuff. Can we get an auntie in here?
Fish look a lot bigger underwater, that's for sure.
They do.
So it was a really...
Everybody, this is one of our lovely editors and aunties and friends, Lexi Kaili, who's gonna. Buddy's upset because he wants to eat, and we're talking too much. We'll bring him back. Don't worry, he'll be back.
So, I mean, as far as like formal training goes, have you had formal training?
I kind of just like learned from a lot of trial and error, and then after I was already, really like freediving and spearfishing was my life, I did end up taking a class through the program FII, and I found it so helpful because in these freediving classes, and there's so many different ones out there today, but this one with my instructor Martin Stepanek, it was really all about form and your body and just the whole physiology and everything, where I don't know, it was so helpful for me, and safety. And so I was able to apply the things that I was already doing with all this science, and it really helped put things together. So I did take a class, and I really do recommend classes, as long as they're not about just ego and how deep you can go and pushing yourself beyond your limits.
And I've never actually taken formal freediving training. It's all been through Kimi. Kimi's really spent a lot of time with me, and she's a really great teacher. So I've never like taken a formal course, but I've hung out with like formal instructors. A lot of times when we work on gigs together, and I'm the camera operator for Kimi, we'll have a safety diver, and that safety diver is a lot of times a formal freediving instructor. And I remember one of the gigs, Michael Jutt was our safety diver, and he's a really good teacher, and I learned so much just in that compressed period of time that Kimi has a different perspective, like the Mr. Miyagi perspective, and then like Michael Jutt has like more of formal training where he'll tell you why this, why that, certain reasons for this, and one reason I came up and I hurt my neck, I feel, when I was down deeper, and Michael was just like, well, this is the reason why that happened, so it was really great to have both perspectives. And you can never be like too safe in the water, I think, from my perspective, being a beginner still. It was really awesome to have all sorts of perspectives, because it's always a learning experience in the ocean, because it's ever changing too.
Cool. Let's see. Who else do we have? Oh, another freediving one. Okay. Kyle Makio is asking, have you ever witnessed a blackout underwater? Have you ever witnessed a blackout underwater?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've felt a little bit like what it would be to go there, and I've seen other people kind of, jump around, and I think you call it samba or something, but I've never seen a formal blackout, thankfully.
I definitely have. I definitely have. I've saved people's lives from blacking out, and it's gnarly. It really, and that's what I mean about these freediving classes, because there's some instructors out there that, to each, and I can't even say to each their own. There's some instructors out there who really teach that blacking out is part of the process, and it's okay, blacking out is part of freediving, this and that, and they kind of desensitize people so much where I feel like then it becomes almost like a cool thing to like push yourself to black out. It's not, and I really don't dig that theory, because when you are in a real life situation out in the ocean and you see your partner black out, it is so important to keep your calm, to keep it together, and to do everything you can to save them. But that's also when the reality sinks into you that if you don't do this correctly, it's not cool. Like, if you don't do absolutely everything correctly to bring this person home, you're the one that's gonna go tell their family that they're not gonna make it. You're the one that's gonna go tell someone that you lost their loved one at sea, and that's what that's what goes through your head. And so I think when it comes to blacking out, it's number one, is so important that you have a partner that's there and really watching you, and watching you like a hawk, because one of the experiences I had with saving someone blacking out, we were both kind of hunting the same fish, which is how we work a lot when we go free diving, and this fish was just going into deeper and deeper water, and he would dive down and try and bring the fish in, and then it would run or swim, and then I would see where the fish was swimming, so I would stay above it on the surface and kind of follow it and track it, and then when it was my turn to dive, I would go down and he would do the same thing. And so it was getting a little like dangerous, because we were kind of leaving, we're watching where the fish was going, but every single time I'd make sure not to get too far away, and I'd look back and I'd check on him. And this one time where I saw the fish leave and I was watching him come up, I'm like, okay, he's fine, and I was staying over the fish, and then I saw him hit the surface, my peripheral vision, and then I just started to do the drop on the fish, and just as I was dropping down, I just had this voice inside of me just say he didn't look quite right when he was coming up. I know how this guy swims, I know how he moves, and something about his movements, he looked really tired. And then I had this other, and then I'm like, it's okay, but you saw him hit the surface. And then I had this other voice inside of me saying, that even when they hit the surface, they can still black out. And you didn't really watch him for a good amount of time after he hit the surface. And so finally, I took my eyes off the fish. And by this time, I'm 50 feet down, took my eyes off the fish, looked back up over at him where he hit the surface. And all I saw was him just sinking like a stone. I just started swimming directly towards him. He was using one of my spirit guns. My gun just drifted right past me. I just let it go into the blue. There's all kinds of things going through your mind. At first I'm like, oh, my gun, should I grab it? I'm like, no, Kimmy, no. And then I came, and then he was just I got to him, his eyes were just rolled back in his head. Bubbles were just coming out of his mask, and he was sinking, and I just grabbed him, brought him up to the surface, tried to rip his mask off him, but he had his snorkel in his mouth, which you're not supposed to have. If you watch our freediving videos, I'm always spitting out my snorkel because it's not really serving me underwater, but also it can be pretty dangerous if something like this happens. And so I was struggling to get his mask off and snorkel out, but thankfully was able to save his life that day. And there's been a couple other incidents. That one felt like by far the scariest to me. And I just remember everything I did had to be about staying calm. Even as I talked to him, it was breathe, breathe. I remember I had this very calm yoga voice, and I really think that is all from practicing these situations, so that you know what to do when it happens. But yeah, I definitely have seen people black out. I've never blacked out myself. I feel like I'm a pretty conservative diver.
That always amazes me because of how much you dive and how much time you spend at the bottom too. But the friend I think she was talking about, I had just seen him a few weeks ago, and I told him about that instance that I had, that dangerous situation, the combination of errors while I was alone in the ocean, and he scolded me. He's like, "You never dive alone." So his takeaway from that situation was really kind of he was very straightforward to me, just you don't dive alone. And I think especially what's happened in the last half a year here, even on this island alone, is a reason why you don't dive alone. And that's something Kimi always taught me too. But
yeah, definitely having a partner is the number one thing you can do to be safe. Okay, Justin, Christy Price is asking, what does your camera setup look like? Do you use any lighting? And how do you deal with the challenge of filming outdoors?
What was the middle question? The lighting? How do I do it?
What does your camera setup look like? Do you use any lighting?
Yeah. I wish I could bring my camera. It's in the office right now. My camera setup is a I use a Sony FS7 that I've had for many years, and I filmed like hunting, and I film a lot of TV stuff, you know, and it's a good like B camera on TV gigs, and then I have like the classic lens, and then another setup is I'll usually have one wireless microphone on Kimi at all times, and then I'll use a shotgun mic on top, so I have those two options of audio to always go to. The one thing with production is you always kind of want to think of the backup in case one thing fails, or in case it's really windy in this direction, you want to have a directional mic this way, you know. So you're always thinking a backup for whatever you can. As far as lighting, like I do have lights. I have a couple like 1x1 LED packages, and but most of the time, as far as dealing with lighting, I'll have this little 4x4 bounce that, you know, I'll usually use the existing light that I have to my advantage, however that is possibly, but a lot of times you won't have that possibility to do it, because we're just for this specific series, you know, we're just using what we have wherever we have it, and a lot of times I don't have time to set up lighting or anything like that. So, and we're always moving around, so it's hard, you know, if you're going to use lighting, you know, you're only lighting a specific area, and if we're lighting a specific area as this whole backyard, that's a lot of lighting. So I don't use that much lighting. I kind of just use existing lighting. What was the last question there?
Well, how do you deal with the challenge of filming outdoors?
The challenge of filming outdoors, you just go with it.
It doesn't compare to the challenge of filming with a baby.
Yeah, totally.
I would say
that's way
that
more
first
challenging.
and
So
foremost.
the challenge of filming with audio, as far as a baby, you know, that's a difficulty. But audio is probably the biggest difficulty in all of that. Rain, I mean, you just don't shoot in really heavy rain. It's not that big of a bother. It gets hot sometimes, but one of my biggest inspirations was Rob Taylor, who I worked under for a series with Nat Geo and Kimi. And he was just like, he didn't even let the weather bother him at all. He just went for it, because a lot of times when the weather's crazy, that's the best time to be filming. So it is like, you know, I have my equipment insured, so we just try to shoot through whatever we can, and just go with it for the most part.
Okay.
In Hawaii, it's a little bit easier, you know, than say like in Montana or Alaska or something like that. So.
Okay, Minty Boro and the Pink Columbot is asking, how did Justin and I meet?
That's all you. You
Okay.
call me out for not describing it the best all the time.
Justin and I met 8 years ago. We actually met through doing production, and we met on a shoot where he came from Minnesota with this Minnesota production company.
Thank you, Jed.
Yeah, his friend Jed got him that gig. Justin, so before we got together, he was a cinematographer who filmed snowboarding primarily. Like, that was his main gig, was snowboarding. Summer times he filmed some lake fishing, and fall he filmed some bow hunting, but predominantly snowboarding cinematographer. But he got this random gig from his friend who just said, we're going to Hawaii to make this, you know, show, or do an episode of this show. You want to come? We can hire you as PA, which is production assistant. And he had some time off. I was like, sure, I've never been to Hawaii. So he came, and I was a guide. So I was hired to be like the spearfishing guide, to take the host spearfishing. You know, the host comes on a TV show, and I take him spearfishing, and then we were supposed to find a chef to cook the food for us. And so that's how Justin and I met. The first episode was filmed on the Big Island, and yeah, he was the PA, and so he was always
Nervous.
he was always bringing me water. Remember that? Because it was
right.
so hot, and I just thought he was so handsome, and I just loved whenever like I drank a lot of water, because I just wanted him to keep bringing me more, you know, refills, and yeah, and I just thought he was cute and handsome and really nice, and he worked really, really hard, because it was a production where there's a lot of stressed out people, a lot of yelling, a lot of things I don't really respect. I shouldn't talk too much stuff on that. Okay, but one thing, whenever things would get stressful, I would watch Justin, because a PA is kind of like, I don't want to say like, it's the position of a person who kind of does everything for everybody. You know, it doesn't have the same prestige as like a producer, a shooter, a talent, or whatever. And yet he was the one working so hard, like running circles about, you know, around everyone else, and that a lot of times, you know, was dealing with everyone's stress, and he just stayed so nice. And so I really like that about him. And and then we had to do a shoot on Oahu, and so I was living here, and so for one of the dinner scenes, so I ended up telling them, oh, instead of finding a chef, I can just cook this fish for you. So we did a dinner scene. Production company asked if I could invite some friends over. My girlfriends came over, and then they all saw Justin, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's cute. And I'm like, I know. And they're like, you have no excuse to be single if you're like working with guys like that. Like, what are you doing? Why aren't you flirting? Oh my gosh, I'm so dragging out this story. That's okay. And they tried, and then that production ended. But the good news is that the production company appreciated me so much that then they said, you know, why don't you join us for our next episodes and guide our host into spearfishing in Mexico? And this was like it was a long time ago. I was just like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to go to Mexico and do more of this. And it just so happened that Justin was there. And so I came to Mexico, honestly, with my A game on my back, ready to flirt with the cute PA. And that was my goal. And I was sent there on a mission from friends who cared about me very much. And that was my goal, to flirt with this cute PA and see what happens. And then I got to Mexico, and it turned out he had been promoted. Now he was a producer, and then I was like, oh, I can't flirt with him anymore. I don't know why. I just felt like he's like kind of not like my boss, but like I'm, you know, like it just made it somehow seem more unprofessional. I don't know why. And so then I was just like, oh, like, and so I just stared at him, like just awkwardly. Didn't I make you feel awkward so many times? I just stared at him.
Yeah, that was awkward. We were sitting in a boat, and I was by the camera operator, like kind of producing, and she'd just be staring at me, and I'd be like, wow, this is for real? Like, I don't know, it's kind of naive.
I just looked at him and thought about how I should, you know, how I wanted to flirt with him, but I wasn't going to anymore. But then 2 weeks, that was a 2-week production in Mexico. 2 weeks of that went by, still nothing. We were both pretty shy.
Hey, buddy boy.
This is Shane, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Hi, buddy.
And
We're
now we have a
telling
baby.
how you came to be. And yeah, and so anyway, 2 weeks went by, nothing happened. But after that, the production ended. Justin was gonna go back to the world of snowboarding. I was gonna go back to Hawaii. We were never gonna see each other again. And I was like, well, didn't make anything happen with that. But then right before my flight left for Hawaii, the sound guy, Chris Bennett, if you're watching, he just said, like, hey, why don't we all go out to lunch? Meaning just me and Justin and him. And we went out to lunch. We were all wrapped with the shoot. And then Justin and I finally started talking.
Because we had some beers and stuff. And
yeah. And because we were so
done with the
stressed
production.
out.
We're done with the production.
We take work really seriously, probably too seriously.
Still today.
And yeah, and then I'm like, oh wait, it actually seems like he might like me too. And then they dropped me off at the airport. But by that time, Justin was flirting with me, and he was like, oh, why do you have to go back to Hawaii? And he's like, I'm gonna stay here because we're in San Diego now. He's like, I'm gonna stay in San Diego for like a week and take a vacation after this shoot. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And he's like, you should change your flight. And I was like, okay, wow. Now he's really, you know, he's asking me to change my flight. But then the pride in me was like, no. Like, you had weeks on weeks on weeks and didn't flirt with me. And now just because this handsome man is giving me attention, I am not going to change my flight and just be that accommodating. So I was just like, oh yeah, I can't, but you know, if you ever want to come to Hawaii, you should come visit me. And so we kind of left it at that. And then he dropped me off at the airport, and we took a little selfie together. And then at the airport, and we exchanged numbers. I texted him the picture, and then he texted me back and just said, like, I think you're so beautiful. And so now I'm just like, oh my gosh, after like a month of putting this off, considering the Hawaii shoot and the, you know, Mexico shoot, we're finally flirting. and I wrote back something super cheesy about how I loved his eyes or something. And then I felt really cheesy. I was like, oh, at least I'll never see him again. I suck at this. And then the gate agent at the airport paged me, and I came up, and she just said, Miss Werner, we're so sorry, but your flight from San Diego to LA is late. You're going to miss your flight from LA to back to Honolulu. And she's like, so you can't leave San Diego tonight. And she's like, but here's a complimentary hotel room, and can we get you a ride? And I started laughing, and I called Justin, and I just said, guess what? And he's like, you changed your flight to stay. And I was like, no, I didn't have to. My flight got canceled. And then he just said, do you think that's coincidence? And I said, I don't believe in coincidence. He said, me neither. And then it was just like game on. Like, then we just stopped being shy and knew that it was like a universal push to help us be together. And even then, it was a year of long distance before he could actually move here and
There's a lot of back and forth.
make things happen. Yeah, I take baby.
Yeah. And I usually cut to the missing the flight getting canceled and things like that. But it is a beautiful story. And now we're here in Hawaii together, and we have a child of 7 months old, and it's been a really incredible journey.
Wait, what's that?
Oh.
Helen Rogers.
What is your knife of choice?
What is my knife of choice? Well, as you can see, I always use these beautiful knives because these are it's abalone shell. It's like paua shell abalone from New Zealand, and I always use these custom-made knives from this knife maker named Hiko Ito, and that's just because he's a Japanese man who lives on the Big Island from Japan, but lives in Hawaii now, and he just sends me these gorgeous custom knives, and so I use those. But when it comes to a knife of choice, like in general, a chef knife. I wish I just had one to show you, but a chef knife is just like a big, standard, kind of triangular pointed, a very standard knife. Because I feel like no matter what the job is, if it's filleting, if it's slicing, dicing, whatever, you can have so many different knives for so many different jobs, but a chef's knife, you should be able to do it all with.
And I always ask you that question too. Just like, what knife should I use for this? Okay, buddy. You want to answer this one? This is cool. This is from Younger Collins. As someone who is based in a more urban living area, so is limited from foraging, but really aspires to adopt as many. We should maybe so they can hear it.
Lexi, why don't you sit closer to us if you can? Sit right here. And
But then Buddy's right there.
oh yeah.
Get out of here.
Well, I think not just for I think maybe Uncle
Oh, yeah.
Shane can watch Buddy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think we should take more questions from the people who are tuning in
Okay.
right now and asking. But go ahead. So that question, I believe, was how does someone in an urban environment make more sustainable choices if you don't live somewhere with the biodiversity and thriving nature of Hawaii, which we're obviously very lucky to have this nature around us and be able to forage from. I would just say, start by maybe going to your farmers markets, checking out like what's locally available, and just like supporting the people who are on the ground doing the sustainable work, the people who are doing regenerative organic farming, the ones who are doing small scale artisanal fishing. And I know it can take a lot of like kind of homework to figure out who those people are, but I really truly believe once you start looking, you're gonna find them, and they're gonna have a network of people for other needs, and that's how I feel like you can best support your environment and things like that. But I will also say that I used to travel a lot, and even in the most urban environments I would go to, I would find edible stuff within the cities, like growing. It sounds so weird, like growing within like planters and whatever. In public places, and so a lot of times it's just getting to know and studying like what are the native natural, plants like in this environment and getting to know them by name, and you'll start seeing them. And I was like, the weirdo kind of foraging within very urban places because I'm just always fascinated by what nature has and what it's providing. So I would just say explore, explore, explore.
Have you? Oh, this is from Bubba Digital. You guys ever run into or know anyone that had trouble with Sigatera?
Mark Healy gets it all the time. Yeah, our friend. So Sigatera is a toxin that's sometimes found in reef fish or in predator fish because it bioaccumulates up the food chain, and there's so little known about it. Basically, they think it's from like algae blooms that are oftentimes
What's your favorite dog?
from water runoff. That's not my dog. From water runoff, because that causes that can cause all these like toxins to get in the algae that fish eat, and then it bioaccumulates up, and then when people get it, it can be really bad. And no, I haven't personally. I have not had. I feel like I might have gotten it very mildly once, like for half a day. And that was it. But I've been eating reef fish my whole life, and I have not run into any Sigatera problems too much. But my friend Mark Healy, who also has a YouTube channel, Mark Healy Strike Missions.
And they talk about it a lot with your brother.
He gets it all the time, and he did this Q&A. You'll see it if you go to his page with Dr. Randall Kosaki, who's actually my brother, and he's like my brother's like the biggest NOAA fish nerd of all time. That's a huge compliment. And he interviews my brother, and they really get deep into the Sigatera toxin. So if you want to learn more about that, check out that page and check out that conversation, because that's coming straight from the scientist himself.
This is from Pat Travels. How quick was your recovery back to freediving after having been?
Well, so a lot of people might know that I did dive throughout my entire pregnancy, and so that was really nice that I didn't take like a long 10-month break just to start us off. I dove with Buddy in my belly. It felt like the right thing for me to do, and however, his birth was a whole other thing. I actually got diagnosed with this supposedly a disease, but this condition called preeclampsia, where my body started having a crazy reaction to my own placenta, and my blood pressure skyrocketed, and it looked like I was gonna have a stroke, and things got gnarly, and yeah.
Buddy's heart
that
rate
was
really
the scariest
dropped.
part. Is
Scary.
Buddy's heart rate, started to have some major issues when my body started having these issues. And it went away for a while, for a long time. And so I ended up getting, I just said planned cesarean to get this baby out and get the placenta out and get us all here safely. And even then we had to stay in the hospital for almost a week because my vitals were still not quite normal. But once they did get back to normal, I took a month to recover. Oh wait, that was like...
It was like 6 weeks, I think?
It was supposed
to...
to...
less than 6 weeks.
It was supposed to be 6 weeks, but...
I mean, you were solid.
I actually somehow recovered pretty good, and I went in after a month. I said, "Can I please go back in the water?" And they said, "Sure." Mm-hmm. And then I started with just swimming, but then it was just really a matter of, can somebody watch my baby so I could go diving? My body felt totally ready, and I think a big part of that again was because I didn't take much of a break during the pregnancy. And so I was ready, and going back in, I really didn't feel much of a difference. I felt just so good to be back. That's where my body felt the best, because I didn't have all this, weight. I had all this, support and floating feelings and whatnot. What's that?
It's just not loud enough.
For the
you can't hear
audience.
Go
me?
ahead. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Talk loud.
Thanks. That's important. Audio is very important.
Yeah. Next one of these, I'll have a microphone set up, and everything. This is kind of a
A tester outer.
yeah, and a lot of requests, a lot of people asking Kimi questions and things. So.
But yeah, so my recovery after that month, I was right back in. It was just a matter of really spending so much time with Buddy and having to take care of him and loving it that it was more like finding the time to. That's the thing about free diving and spearfishing, right? It's like if my passion was walking, I could bring him with me, or hiking, I could probably bring him with me. But my passion is going into a world where I have to kind of leave him behind for a little while.
He came with us yesterday, though. He got a little seasick, but he's handling on the boat, so he's right along with Mommy when he can be, and it'll be a matter of time before this little savage is getting us dinner.
How's the audio, everyone? I hope it's better. Sorry if you guys were having to deal with junk audio. That must be frustrating.
I think this one's kind of interesting. You know, what any tips in keeping bugs away while you cook outdoors? Because that's like.
Oh gosh. Yeah, if you are watching our videos and you're like, how the heck aren't there any flies around them? That's all a facade. That's because I'm constantly shooting flies in between everything. Right now there's no flies because it's morning time and I think they're all still sleeping. But a lot of times when we're shooting, that's one of my main pet peeves. So we take these tea leaves, show them, Buddy. These are tea leaves, and you shoo the flies.
Yeah.
And that's how we deal with it.
We're training Buddy right now.
Yeah, we're training him.
Yeah.
You're gonna be the PA.
Do you
Shooting
have
flies.
any questions, Lexi? Or should
Yeah.
I read from
Let's
here?
let Lexi choose one.
What is your favorite island to dive in Hawaii and French Polynesia area?
So unfortunately, sorry guys. It's not good to lie, but if you're gonna lie about anything, you lie about your dive spots and your fishing spots. So I love both Hawaii. I love French Polynesia. So sorry, I can't be naming those specific spots because it's out of respect to that. Go out and explore, find your gems, and then lie about them all because that's one area where it's totally okay to lie. Fishing spots, diving spots, you find them, you protect them. You let other people find them or not, or find their own. Sorry if that sounds selfish, but I'm doing it to protect the refrigerators of the communities, because the minute you put it out there to a lot of people, you kind of can't control if everyone else is as selective or responsible as they should be in those areas. But I will say, I love French Polynesia and I love Hawaii.
Okay, another question from D. Serp. Kimi, were you the one that introduced Hawaiian cuisine to Justin?
Justin, take it away.
Yep. Again, I came from Minnesota, and we just made a dish that we actually got inspiration from Chile the other day, and it was this beautiful seafood dish, and it just like occurred to me like, wow, I didn't even know this existed until I was like 28 years old, and I came to Hawaii, and then I started to really, Kimi really started to show me what real seafood is and cooking is, and so Kimi definitely introduced me to Hawaiian cuisine. I was very naive as far as cooking goes, and as far as food goes. If I'd harvest my own food, I grew up shooting white-tailed deer, so I knew venison, but as far as fish,
And you knew lake fish.
and I knew lake fish like walleye, crappie, and lake trout and things like that we'd eat in Minnesota and travel to catch or things like that. But yeah, Kimi definitely opened my eyes to everything ocean related.
And that's how I knew Justin was a keeper. Food's very important to me. We kind of like fell for each other on the road, I said, and then we like stayed in touch over distance and then fell for each other more and more. But then sometimes you bring, I don't want to say it, well, it's easy to fall in love on the road. It's easy to be in this like, away from home, you're traveling, everything's more romantic. It's when you take that person out of that adventure, out of there, and then you kind of like see them in your real life, or sometimes you're just like weird, awkward, mistake, you know, and
You been there?
and
Oh, sorry, buddy.
sorry. And so that was something where I was like, oh gosh, I really hope that's not the case, because we really had such great chemistry, you know, outside of Hawaii. But yeah, the next time that Justin and I saw each other after our San Diego rendezvous,
You made sure that next meeting happened.
the next
Yep.
meeting, I'm like, okay, if this is gonna work, you gotta come to Hawaii, and we gotta hang out there and see how it goes. And
And then you brought me to the place where we ended up getting married.
which is
8 years
Hana,
later.
Hana Maui. So I told him, meet me in Hawaii, but not just on Oahu, because I'm from Maui originally. So I said, I'll go home, meet me in Maui. In fact, meet me in Hana. And so, and at the time, I was on Molokai with some of my friends, and I took a boat. Well, my friends drove me by boat back home. And so one day, when they drove me from, you know, Molokai to Maui back home on the boat, I came with some venison and
Lobster.
some fish and lobsters and you know, great stuff, and met Justin on Maui. Pretty much took him to a very special place in Hana, and we were very awkward at first, but not in like a turn off kind of way, just in a very polite, shy. Like, again, it took us like a month to even flirt, so we were kind of shy people. But then by night, when we made a fire, I made a fire and I cooked him a kumu. It's a beautiful pink goatfish. Cooked him a kumu over the fire, and we had the stars above us. And I was kind of, and I had made like a venison chili, but I was kind of like, it's just gonna weird him out. Like, some people really don't like eating the whole fish, or seeing the head or the eyes, or knowing how to deal with the bones. And Justin just like was shouting to the stars in delight. Every bite of this kumu he took, he was just mind exploding, taste buds being blown, and he ate that fish like my grandma would have eaten a fish, where it was just nothing but bones left, and was just like sucking the meat up. And that's when I knew, ooh, I got a good one.
That excitement I got from my dad. My dad is a very like emotional eater, where he just gets so excited. And yeah, I still do today too. Just eating this. We're eating like cold smoked salmon right now, and I'm eating it, and we've been into avo toast. So I'm just like, oh, it's such good food. But we definitely eat really good with Kimi, because all these cooking shows and stuff we do, the inspiration was by what she does 3 times a day out of choice. You know, it was just like, I need to start recording this, and by the time I could say, you catch up with other things, and then get to the point where I was like, all right, let's start shooting these things. It was cool, because it's like we can capture at least what she's doing, you know, once a week or a couple times a week or something like that. But she's literally making incredible meals like 3 times a day, and always experimenting with things, and her resourcefulness for like, we go to these places and we don't have these ingredients. Kimi's always able to make something and just blow people's mind. And food, you know, like one of my inspirations, you know, Anthony Bourdain, you know, he travels around the world, eats these foods, and brings together cultures and just talks over food. Kimi has that ability, which I think is really incredible, where this food is this communication that brings people together so much. And I know it's brought us together so much. You know, if I wasn't into food, we wouldn't be maybe sitting here, I don't think. But
unfortunately not.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you are, 'cause and buddy, you're a very good eater too. But that's important to me.
And the other thing that I think that is really awesome, that you know, I think is really special for the both of us, is that we really truly are passionate about it, have fun doing it, and appreciate it. Is just the act of going out to get our own food. You know, it's not easy. You know, a lot of people call people out if they're killing animals. Oh, you don't need to kill animals, you know, for your food. I mean, that's how I grew up. That's what I know. You know, and it's not easy. Like, it's not easy taking lives sometimes. It's a hard process. You know, the fish or anything like that. But it is something that we both find that passion in, because it's important to us to see where our food comes from beginning to end. You know, and then meeting Kimi, that it just inspired both of us, I think, to continue in that part of the process, and now that's what this video series this kind of came to be, you know, for the most part.
I would say another thing real quick just to build off of that is it's not just the hard part isn't just the forage, the going out and harvesting, but then it's the commitment to the follow through. And what I really love about Justin is that if we go out and get fish, like, oh, he will just like, he knows that the rest of our week is now going to be affected by that.
Such an important part of the process.
Yeah, it's like you need to then, you know, clean these fish, scale them, like make sure that they're filleted, they're taken care of, they're eaten while they're fresh. You know, if you have enough to share, you better share that right away and start delivering it. And you know, sometimes it just throws our whole work schedule off because it's like we went diving and now we have the responsibility to really see through what's in this cooler. Like, we're not just just chuck it in the freezer and forget about it and go diving again people. We're like, you must pay respect to these ingredients and treat them in the best way possible. And so that's a huge reason why I'm projects. It's just the perfect combination. With that being said, and then I'll go to some more questions. I did see a question. I think it was in the post we did yesterday night, so I'm sorry if I'm not shouting you out, but asking, you know, how do we make our income? We don't make it from YouTube, just so you know. Like, in fact, it's only costing us money right now, and that's really exciting to me because I feel like, first of all, and this isn't me trying to sound like, oh, I'm a gift to the world, but it does feel like we're doing a service, which is what feels important, because these things that feel really important to us, of, you know, food and family and things like that, I think it's important to share whatever your passion is. I think that is a service, is when you're able to share it, either to teach people some things or just to share it and give other people permission to share their passions. But yeah, so we're kind of just doing this right now all as a passion project. Obviously, we do hope that it becomes, you know, sustainable for us, and it's something we can keep doing, and hopefully something that we can start making an income out of. But right now it's the opposite. It's a big investment and experiment, and that's what I love the most about it is that fire, that hustle it puts into me, knowing that we're not just like, you know, sitting pretty and collecting paychecks on it. It's like, no, you got to work for it and earn it and do it for the love, before you start seeing any of the financial payoff. So to answer your question though, I used to be a teacher. I used to teach art at an elementary school, and then after that, I just realized every day I was telling my kids to follow their dreams and they can do whatever they want and believe in whatever they want. And I realized I had to do that myself. And so then I became an artist. I left teaching to actually see if I could make a living off of art. Whew, that was hard. But it put this fire in me. I realized when it was hard to sell paintings, that I had to think of something else. And so at the time I started painting trucker hats. I would paint the fish I would see underwater. I would paint them on trucker hats, and I would sell these hand painted hats. And I started to create, I had this community of support from people who followed my diving, which was not making any, this is long before the word influencer was known, or sponsorships was like a common, like, you know, part of people's lives. And so I was diving when I could and trying to just like sell hats that I was painting in the meantime. And eventually, it's like, yeah, I got to a point where I was just able to pay my rent. And when the weather was nice, I could go diving because I made my own schedule. And when it wasn't nice, I'd paint hats. And it was super hard work. Like, if you can imagine how many hats you have to paint and sell in order to make rent in Hawaii, it's hard. But I turned myself basically into this like one-woman sweatshop and made just enough to get by, and gave myself the freedom and the time to dive. And then that was amazing, because then through really throwing myself into diving and what I loved about it, sustainability, then I started to get support from sponsors and companies that reached out and were like, we'd love to see photos of you diving in our gear or, using our products. And I was really mindful to only choose things that I really loved and appreciated. My very first sponsor ended up being Patagonia, which is kind of amazing. But yeah, 10 years ago, learning about the values of the company Patagonia, they became my first sponsor, and they really just set the bar where after that I feel like any company I choose to work with, it kind of has to really fit, like either make me a better person in terms of values or have like the products that I literally need every single day. Rife International, that's my diving equipment. Costa sunglasses, those are the ones that make glasses out of reused fishing nets. Olukai footwear. Who am I missing, Justin?
I mean, you're always partnered with someone. Jeez. Juneshine is
Juneshine is one of my partners. They're organic hard kombucha, so delicious. But yeah, so those would be.
Buddy disappear.
Bye, buddy. Those would be my sponsors. Really hope I didn't miss anyone. That would feel so disrespectful. But I love every single company.
Pretty rad lineup. That
I work with, and then along with that, production. Like production would have been like a huge part of how we made a living. And so Justin and I got to do some series with National Geographic. Dream come true. Yeah, you have to imagine this. Like taking like someone like me who was just like trying to catch fish to eat, and someone like him who was a snowboarding cinematographer that moved to Hawaii, and then kind of combining our powers and then getting these series with Nat Geo, like holy cow, talk about dreams come true. And so we've done that, and just a lot of other productions that I'm sure you guys have probably seen, like the Gordon Ramsay stuff and Brad Leone and just other great people who come through and we partner with. That's been a huge source. However, because of this whole pandemic, all of that stopped.
Yep.
Our production just stopped, and so it was just like, okay, well, there goes that whole source of income for now. And then that's when we decided, well, let's throw down and just keep doing it, even if it doesn't survive, even if this doesn't do it. I'm never gonna regret it because
we have fun doing it.
This is what we do.
Yeah. That's why it's easy to get it going, is because I'm a camera operator, and then I wouldn't consider myself an editor, but like I do production, and you kind of, so it's easy to just hit the ground running with it because we're already doing what we do in life anyway.
And it's really fun because right now, since we're not making any money off of it, we can just do whatever we want to do, and that's exciting to me. Like,
and now we have Lexi
Shane and Lexi.
that jumped in and are helping us, which is really like.
We got our dogs that support us. They're not our dogs, but they support us every single day doing this, and we got you guys, and it just feels really organic. And and you know what my whole point was, is it puts that hustle back in me. It makes me feel like I'm painting hats again, because I have no idea whether this is gonna succeed or fail. It doesn't matter. Like we're doing it because we like to do it. It's hard work. We have Buddy. Oh my gosh, But I'm just hoping that we're creating something that will allow our family to be together
and we have some exciting things coming up. Like
we do.
We're not like, we try to shoot it and keep it relevant like every week. That was kind of how we've been going. But sometimes the reality is we get a little bit of a head because we're just shooting. And we got some really fun ones that are coming up.
We definitely do. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I have a good feeling about all of this. And I just have to really say, we just really appreciate you guys, because it would be harder to feed this good feeling if nobody cared. So thank you for caring, and thank you for tuning in. And do we have more questions, or how are we doing on time?
We have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes.
A couple more questions. One that has to do along that same line. Francine wants to
Fire
know.
off answers.
She would love to have a cookbook with your recipes. Have you created one yet?
Oh man, so that's like the goal.
What's your goal right now to release it? Do you
Oh,
want
we
to say
did- we
that?
did have a deadline.
You set a deadline.
You set a deadline for me.
Well, I mean, we kind of thought about it together. And
Was
like,
it Christmas or something?
Yes, Christmas. Not this year, though.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's not this year's Christmas. We were trying to fire that off, and then kind of like this project kind of took priority for
But
the
I
most
think
part,
it's all going to work out because this project that we're doing, whenever we make dishes, then Justin will take these beautiful photos. And I'm not a recipe person, as I think most of you can tell from the videos. But what I try to do, if you've noticed, is on a lot of these, I try to actually write out a recipe in the description below for people who do need measurements and things like that. And so I kind of feel like a cookbook is being created through making this. He's collecting the stills. I'm actually writing down recipes for the first time in my life. We're also growing a beautiful community, and so I think we are going to make a cookbook.
When is it going to be done?
December 21.
Oh, okay. December 21?
Is that it?
Yeah. No, it's just like, because I just give Kimmy a little bit crap, because
A lot of crap.
so
'Cause I
many people
say-
want a cookbook from her. And she's like, oh, I'll get to it, but it's cool because she follows her heart and her inspiration, and she's like, it's not ready yet. It's
Well,
not ready
no, it's
yet.
just more like I cook and then I don't
Record
measure.
anything,
Yeah, I just, it's like this, it's like a passion for me. And so, but that's why I think this channel is going to help organize the creative chaos that I am and be able to put it into book form. Anything else we got? Let's go 5 minutes over. For everyone down for that? No?
Yeah, I mean, there's like
Okay.
a bunch of questions, and we have Buddy in control here, and then, yeah, something I was going to say to you before, but just about creating this channel.
Who inspires you, Kimmy?
Oh, that's a cool
Ooh.
question. That's a great
Gosh.
question.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's the kind I almost wish I had more time to, because I know after this one, I'd be like, oh, why didn't I say this person or that person? You know, a big inspiration to me, I guess the first people that come to my mind, oh, you want to guess?
Jack Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
He is a wonderful inspiration.
I love Jack and Kim Johnson. So Jack Johnson is a songwriter and singer. And I love Jack Johnson way before I knew Jack Johnson. Like when I just would listen to his albums, those lyrics just put my broken hearts back together again so many times and make me feel understood. And then I got to meet Jack and Kim Johnson. Kim Johnson was married to Jack. Oh my gosh, talk about a hero. Like, she is somebody who taught me so much about, like, you know, when I said, oh, some of these companies like Patagonia, it feels like they make me a better person because through their values, I learn more like, oh, I want to try harder. I want to be better. That's what Kim Johnson does to me. Like, she, without preaching, without forcing anything on me, she has educated me long before it was cool, trendy, or known about plastic pollution and just like environmental issues in such a way that didn't make me feel hopeless or doomed or judged, but made me feel inspired to do better. And so I just really look up to her a lot because I feel like she really knows how to take this spotlight of Jack's, you know, fame and shine it on things that she feels are even more important. And so that was inspiring to me. And then also we become really good friends with them since then. And when you just go to their house, like, I just, for people who have like made it so big and become like so famous, they don't seem to have like a matching dish. They still drink out of mason jars. They don't even use paper towels. Like, they really, their house is like built out of reused stuff. Like, they just really they really walk the walk, and not to show off and not to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so eco-friendly, but but because they care and the way that they put their family first, that's huge. But I think just the way that fame did not I don't know. They're so humble. They're such a humble real way that I would say that there are two people that come to mind right off the bat, but there's so many other people.
Buddy got his part in, okay.
When does Buddy get sponsored?
That's a good question. We don't know.
So many questions still.
Anything else,
That's
Lexi?
really
Let's see.
Well, we can do another Q&A sometime in the future. You do your own too, you know, because there's so much knowledge in your head. I feel that people just want to hear about, but that's why we make these videos about her.
Well, yeah, and so thank you so much, you guys, for joining us on this. I know it's something a little different from our use, but we wanted to just give it a try. Wanted to engage with you guys directly, and don't worry, it's not because we're running out of content. We're not gonna keep the videos coming out. We have a whole lineup of things that we've been working on, and some really cool surprises and ideas in the works. So
subscribe if you want to see what's ahead in the future and be a part of the community.
yes,
And
please.
see more Buddy as he grows up.
Woo! Oh my gosh, you're so sweaty. All right, and I think it's time to say goodbye and sign off. But thank you, mahalo so much for
Thank you so
joining us,
much.
and we'll see you next week.
Sweet.
Bye.